You'll waste water. Margaret stopped washing. When she wanted to play with Matthew, Carol said, "Let him focus. You'll confuse him with your old ways." Margaret folded her hands in her lap and stayed silent. One day, she dropped a plate while cleaning. It shattered on the marble floor, and Carol's voice cut through the house. "Why is she still here, Daniel? She's more work than help." Daniel said nothing. It happened on a Monday morning. Margaret had just finished sweeping the backyard, her hands dusty, when Daniel called her inside. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Carol stood beside him, arms crossed, her lips curled in a faint smile. "Mama," Daniel began, his voice low. "Carol and I decided it's time you go." Margaret blinked. "Go where?" "Back to your village," he said. "We can't continue like this. It's too much." Margaret stared at her son, the boy who once clung to her legs, who whispered, "You're the best mom in the world." That boy was gone. "I understand," she whispered. She packed her suitcase, draped her shawl over her shoulders, and walked out. No one said goodbye. No one looked back. The suitcase's broken wheel made a soft thump, thump, thump as she dragged it down the driveway. She had no plan, no map, no destination. But she had something Daniel didn't know about, a secret worth more than his entire house. Betrayal cuts deep, doesn't it? When the ones you love turn their backs, it feels like the ground's been pulled from under you. But listen, you are not defined by their rejection. Margaret's about to show us that even when the world says you're nothing, you can still be everything. Keep watching, because her strength will inspire you to find your own. Margaret had been saving money her entire life, not in a bank or under her bed, but through a wise investment group called the Circle of Quiet Riches. Her old colleague, Mrs. Osegai, had introduced her to it decades ago. They taught her to buy tiny shares in quiet, steady companies, nothing flashy, nothing risky. She never touched the money, not once. Over the years, her savings grew, silently, steadily, until she was a millionaire with over $1.4 million tucked away. But Margaret still lived like a poor woman. Wealth didn't mean comfort to her. It meant safety, independence, never needing to beg, not even from her son. Now, sitting on that cold bench in River Lane, she opened her suitcase, not to check the money but to pull out a scarf. She smiled faintly. The weight in that suitcase wasn't just money, it was proof. Proof she hadn't failed. Proof she didn't need Daniel. An old woman selling bread passed by and paused. "Mama, are you okay?" Margaret looked up, her eyes tired but steady. For the first time since leaving Daniel's house, she spoke. "Yes." The woman, Mama F., sat beside her. "You need a place to stay?" Margaret hesitated, then nodded. "Just for a night." "Follow me," Mama F. said. "I have a small room behind my shop. You can rest there." The room was tiny, with a wooden bed, a stool, and a curtain for a door. The walls were cracked, smelling of dust and old oil, but it was quiet, peaceful. Margaret placed her suitcase at the foot of the bed and sat down. Mama F. smiled. "I sell bread here in River Lane. Market. If you're hungry, I'll bring you some." Margaret nodded, her heart still heavy but her spirit unbroken. That night, as she lay on the narrow bed, she whispered, "Thank you, God. I may not have a home, but I have breath, and I still have my mind." The next morning, Margaret opened her suitcase. Beneath her old wrapper and a pair of sandals was a small metal box locked with a key hidden in her bra. Underscore inside were bank documents, certificates, and a green ledger book. She flipped through the pages, her faint smile returning. She remembered the first time she saved a big amount, her retirement gratuity. While others bought land or threw lavish parties, she went to Mrs. Osegai and said, "Teach me." She learned to invest carefully, never all at once, always in quiet companies. Her wealth grew like a garden, and now it was worth over $1.4 million. She hadn't touched it. She didn't need to. That day, she helped Mama F. wash bread trays. The old woman protested, but Margaret insisted. They laughed as they worked side by side. "You're strong," Mama F. said. Margaret smiled. "My hands know hard work." The market women grew curious about the quiet new lady. Who was she? Where was she from? Margaret didn't explain. She just helped, cleaning, lifting, sweeping. Soon, people smiled when she passed. One afternoon, a girl named Amina ran into the shop, tears streaming down her face. Her brother had fainted from hunger. Without hesitation, Margaret opened her suitcase, pulled out a sealed envelope, and handed it to the girl. "Buy medicine and food," she said. Mama F's eyes widened. "That's a lot of money." "He needs it more than I do," Margaret replied softly. And just like that, a seed was planted. People started calling her Mama Hope. They didn't know her story, but they knew she helped. Word spread. If your rent was due, if your child was sick, if your shop burned down, go to Mama Hope. She never asked questions. She listened, and she helped. Margaret lived simply in Mama F's small room, wearing her 2 dresses, one red, one blue, eating bread and akram. She didn't need more. What she needed was peace. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can spark the biggest change. Margaret didn't set out to be a hero, but her heart made her one. You don't need to be rich or famous to make a difference, just willing. Keep watching, because Mama Hope's journey is about to grow bigger than she ever imagined. One night, a teenage boy came to her, tears in his eyes. His father had died, and he wanted to drop out of school to support his siblings. "Education is the only ladder that can pull your family out of a hole," Margaret told him. "Keep climbing." She paid for his scholarship right there in full. He wept into her hands, and Margaret, for the first time in years, wept too. Not from sadness, but from purpose. Daniel never made her feel needed, but here, among strangers, she felt seen. She felt useful. It was beautiful. Meanwhile, in the city, Daniel was drowning. His company downsized, and he lost his job 3 weeks after casting his mother out. He told no one, not even Carol, borrowing money secretly to maintain their lavish lifestyle, a big house, 2 cars, a son in private school. Carol started asking questions. "Why are the bills piling up? Why did your card decline?" Daniel snapped. "Do you think money grows on trees? I'm handling it." But he wasn't. One afternoon, he saw a video on his phone, a woman recording someone giving gifts in Riverlane. The camera caught a glimpse of an old woman helping a boy into a clinic. Daniel froze. It was his mother. How could she be helping people? She had nothing. He had thrown her out. Yet there she was, giving, smiling, surrounded by love. His chest tightened. He hadn't called, hadn't looked for her. But now he had questions. Was she rich? Where did she get the money? The next day, he lied to Carol about a business trip and took a bus to Riverlane. The journey was long, his heart heavy. When he arrived, he asked for Mama Hope. Everyone smiled. "She's at the clinic." "No, she's at the sewing shop." He opened his mouth, but no words came. He had come for answers but found only silence, shame, and something he couldn't name. Margaret looked at her son, the boy she raised alone, who had thrown her out like trash. He looked thinner, tired, worried. She could see the storm in his eyes, but waited for him to speak. He didn't. She sighed, sat down, and picked up her book. If he had something to say, it would have to be with truth. She was no longer the mother who begged for love. She was Mama Hope now, and Hope didn't bow to lies. Daniel returned the next day, waiting under the same tree, wearing a plain shirt, no gold watch, no fancy shoes, just Daniel, quiet and alone. "Mama, can we talk?" he asked. She studied his eyes. He looked small, scared. She nodded. They sat near the clinic, the air filled with birdsong and distant children's laughter. "I don't know where to begin," Daniel said, staring at his hands. "I was angry, stressed. I said things I shouldn't have." "You told me to leave," Margaret reminded him. "You said I was a burden." He winced. "I didn't mean it." She raised an eyebrow. "Then why say it?" He had no answer. "I lost my job," he admitted. "We were struggling. Carol was complaining. I thought if you left, things would be easier." "And were they?" she asked. He swallowed hard. "No," Margaret looked away, her voice calm. "You made me leave with nothing but a suitcase. You never asked if I ate, slept, or was alive." Tears gathered in Daniel's eyes. "I was ashamed, Mama. I didn't know how to fix what I broke." A long silence followed. Then Margaret said, "You didn't just break my heart, Daniel. You broke the bridge between us." He wiped his face. "Please, I want to build it back. I miss you." She looked at him, then stood. "If you want to fix it, don't talk. Show me." And she walked away. Don't we all want a second chance? But second chances aren't given, they're earned. Daniel's about to learn that trust is rebuilt with actions, not words. Keep watching, because the story shows us that redemption is possible, but it takes work. Daniel returned the next day, following Margaret to the sewing shop where she taught widows to make clothes. He sat in the back, watching. The next day, he carried bread trays to the market. The next, he helped a sick woman sweep her floor. Every day, he followed his mother, quiet, respectful, humble. One evening, by the fire behind Mama F's shop, he sat beside her. "You help all these people, Mama." "Why?" She looked at him. "Because I know how it feels to be abandoned, to cry alone. I never want anyone else to feel that." He nodded. "I'm sorry," he said again. This time she said, "I believe you." He looked surprised. "But that doesn't mean things will be the same," she added. "Forgiveness isn't trust." He nodded slowly. "I understand." She gave him a small smile. "Then maybe you've grown." 1 week later, Carol arrived in River Lane with their son, Junior, dust on her high heels. Seeing Daniel carrying buckets from a well, she screamed, "What's going on? You left us for this dump." Margaret walked out, holding Junior's hand, smiling at the boy. "You've grown, my dear." Carol snapped, "Don't talk to him." Margaret didn't flinch. Carol turned to Daniel. "Are we poor now? Is that what this is?" He looked tired. "Yes, we're poor, but I found something here I lost in that big house." Carol laughed bitterly. "What?" "Peace." He nodded. "Yes, and maybe purpose." Carol was speechless, looking at the happy people, women laughing, children playing with old toys. Margaret said softly, "He turned himself into this, and he's better for it." Carol hissed, "You can keep your peace. I'm going back to the city." Junior pulled her sleeve. "Can I stay with Grandma?" Carol's mouth fell open. "What?" Junior looked at his dad. "I like it here. Everyone's happy." Daniel said nothing. Margaret hugged the boy. "You can stay if your mother allows." Carol stared, fury and confusion swirling in her eyes, then turned and walked away, her heels clicking angrily. Weeks passed. Junior stayed, helping Margaret carry books, pack food parcels, and read to younger kids. He smiled more, laughed more, learned to knead bread with Mama F. One morning he asked, "Grandma, were you always this cool?" Margaret laughed, a sound rare and bright. "Maybe. Or maybe I was just hidden." Daniel watched his son grow kinder, softer, and saw himself in the boy's eyes. One night, he approached Margaret. "Mama, I saw the bank slips in your suitcase. You're rich. You had millions all this time." She nodded slowly. He blinked. "Why didn't you say anything?" "You slept on a broken bed, ate street bread." She leaned forward. "Money can't buy peace, Daniel. Or fix broken hearts." He was quiet. She added, "If I told you, would you have let me stay?" He was silent. "That's what I thought." Margaret changed. One day, she gathered the market women. "I want to start a center, a place to teach, heal, feed, and house those with no one." They cheered. With her money, she bought land, hired workers, bought beds, books, clothes, medicine. The Mama Hope Center was born. People came from far to volunteer, doctors, teachers, builders, cooks. She didn't just build a center, she built a family. Daniel stayed, not for the money, but for a second chance, teaching boys to fix things, apologize, be kind. At sunset, he'd whisper, "Thank you." Margaret would smile. "Don't thank me. Live better than yesterday." But not everyone was happy. Mr. Cunnell, a land agent who once cheated Margaret, saw her in a newspaper. "Margaret Udoka, Mama Hope, gives back $1 million to build center for the poor." His eyes widened. He wasn't alone. Jealous whispers grew. Some wanted her wealth. But Margaret wasn't afraid. She had family now, not by blood, but by choice, love, truth. One morning, a black car stopped at the center's gate. 2 men in suits stepped out. Then Cunnell, smiling like a snake. "Well, Margaret, or should I say Mama Hope?" She stood tall. "What do you want, Cunnell?" He waved a paper. This land was mine. The sale wasn't legal. People gasped. Margaret's heart dropped, not from fear, but anger. "You forgot," she said quietly. He ignored her. 1 week. Pay $500,000, or vacate. That night, the center was quiet. Daniel sat beside her. What do we do? She stared at the stars. We fight, not with fists, with truth, with light. She met her lawyer, showing every receipt, signature, land paper. You did everything right, he said. We can win. News spread. Mama Hope in battle for her home. People came to River Lane with food, money, supplies. One man said, my son was a thief. Now he teaches here. I'll fight for the center. On the 6th day, Cunnell returned with police and eviction papers. Hundreds blocked the gates, chanting, Mama Hope is our light. Margaret handed over her documents. The lawyer nodded. She owns this land. An officer checked, then turned to Cunnell. You lied. Cunnell was arrested. People cheered. Daniel hugged his mother. You're stronger than all of us. The center grew. Buildings for mothers, babies, books, a well, a garden. Junior taught reading. Daniel mentored boys. Margaret watched. Her small book of names. People helped, fed, healed in hand. One evening, she sat with Daniel. Remember the big house? He nodded sadly. I had money there, but no peace. She took his hand. We were both lost, but we found our way. She said, family is not blood. It's love, standing together when everything falls apart. Years later, the Mama Hope Center was known nationwide. On its gate, in gold letters, here no one is forgotten. Margaret walked past daily, in her brown slippers, smiling at the life she built. Not with money, but with love, courage, hope. What did Margaret teach us? That true wealth isn't in your bank account. It's in the lives you touch, the love you give, the hope you share. When others throw you away, rise. Your value doesn't disappear because someone can't see it. Thank you for joining the Jones Life Stories. If this story moved you, like, comment, and share. More tales of resilience await. Stay kind, stay hopeful, and keep shining.